Life may unfold in front of us like a long ribbon of highway, but there's no one-size-fits-all roadmap to help us design lives for ourselves outside the rat race. That doesn't mean, though, that it isn't helpful and inspiring to hear and learn from other people's stories. After all, we're human beings, so we've been learning and sharing through storytelling for many thousands of years. And because each person's story is unique, I thought it'd be worthwhile to share my own. Before I share it, though, I encourage you not to dismiss it because it doesn't exactly match your own situation. No one's story ever will. Find the nuggets, general concepts, and ideas that you could apply in your life instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's important to keep in mind that building a new life for yourself doesn't happen overnight. It's a process that takes time to unfold, and it can involve months or more likely years of tweaking, refining, and iterating. So it probably won't surprise you that one of the most helpful steps in this process is gathering those stories and examples of others. Those who have already created lives that break many of the conventional rules. That's where I started in this journey to create a less stressful and more fulfilling life for myself. Today, I'm 54 years old, and it was a little over 15 years ago that a number of new concepts and ways of thinking collided in my life. One of them was FIRE, financial independence, retire early. I was definitely drawn to this concept, but I didn't want to achieve FIRE the way most people do, by investing in large portfolios of rental properties that exacerbate affordable housing issues, or investing in the stock market and ownership of the companies that are destroying the very future I'm preparing for. This is also when I found permaculture, which is a tool we can use to design all aspects of our lives in ways that work with nature instead of against it. And while most people who stumble upon permaculture get excited about food forests, I was really curious about the economics and finance petal of the permaculture flower. I wanted to apply the wisdom of permaculture to design a financially resilient and climate resilient life that aligned with my values, or what my co-authors and I later came to refer to as FREE, financially resilient and economically, ecologically, and ethically empowered. So I read more about FIRE and permaculture and consumed lots of the stories of people who were applying one or the other to design fulfilling and financially sound lives for themselves. That led to me discovering lots of examples of people designing really creative, more meaningful, and less costly lives and homes for themselves through YouTube channels like Kirsten Dirkson's. I also read books about people living without money, like Mark Boyle and Daniel Suelo, not because I wanted to live without money, but because I recognized that their resourcefulness and values would inspire me as well. These days, there are more and more people here on YouTube sharing their stories. Two recent videos from people like me who want to center sustainable living and time in nature in their lives are this one from Anders Boysen and this one from A Black Girl in the Woods. I'll link to both of them in the description below. Mine isn't a dramatic story of being overwhelmed or miserable in the past. I even had some very positive experiences living, working, and volunteering abroad. I had been fortunate to land jobs at nonprofits in DC with wonderful coworkers and bosses. However, I was experiencing some low-grade chronic health issues, feeling the wear of traveling so much, and awakening to the realities of the nonprofit industrial complex, which had me questioning the value of my work. So those stories and new ideas landed in some very fertile and welcoming ground in my mind. Since I worked so hands-on with the grants my department wrote, I eventually realized that my employer could experience a win-win by letting me go, hiring me back as a part-time consultant, and hiring someone else to fill my full-time position. Because my boss held me in such high regard and knew that I had valuable knowledge and relationships with key contacts, he was open to the idea. So that's what happened. They started writing me into the grants as a consultant. To compensate for the reduced income, I rented out a room in my house. And as much as I enjoyed living in DC, I didn't think it was a wise choice for me to stay there long term. I sensed that aging alone in DC would be quite expensive, and wasn't thrilled with the weather there that didn't compel me to be outside as much as I wanted. I had seen glimmers of possibilities in places I might want to live while I traveled for work out west over the years. So I sold my house, got rid of most of my belongings, and spent 2 years as a nomad, house sitting, camping, crashing with friends and family, couch surfing, while I explored my options. In the end, I moved back to Tampa Bay, Florida, a place I'd been returning to over the years because this is where my parents live and where I graduated high school. I felt the quality of life I could achieve with the amount of money I had to work with would be best here, and I'm really glad with my choice. I took the equity from my DC home and used it to buy a home here mortgage free. That definitely made me more house rich and cash poor than some people would be comfortable with, but it was the right choice for me. I want to acknowledge that in my case, owning a home was a key part of my growing free journey. Not only was I able to earn some income renting out a room in my house, but I also benefit from the equity, wealth, and additional security that can come from owning a home. And I want to acknowledge that buying a home is a lot more costly and challenging than when I first did it 20 years ago. And while I don't have any suggestions to help you buy your dream home in New York City, San Francisco, or some other high cost of living area, I do believe there are under-tapped homebuyer programs and out-of-the-box ways to approach home ownership. I've compiled all of the resources I've come across into this free Creative Paths to Home Ownership and Housing Toolkit, and I've linked it in the description below if you want to access it. These days, I still work to earn money and feel fortunate to get to do that through right livelihood, which is a Buddhist concept that refers to honest work that doesn't harm others. I have two primary income streams. The first is as a self-employed green living and money coach, doing work that's really important to me and that for the most part I find very enjoyable. With this business, I'm building out multiple streams of income, which include coaching and speaking fees, royalties from our book Growing Free, income from the digital ebooks and courses I've created like Personal Economy Makeover, and hopefully in a few more months, income from this YouTube channel. The other income comes from the work I do one day a week as a caregiver and personal assistant to my aging parents. And smaller sources of income have included money I've earned selling things I rescue from the waste stream and from house sitting. Like many of the examples of people I learned about as I was reading other people's stories early on, I'm finding ways to piece together various streams of income that make this lifestyle possible, and will continue to tweak, refine, and iterate as new needs and possibilities arise. I've got some retirement savings that I've moved off Wall Street into some more truly socially conscious investments, and plan to continue to earn, save, and invest for my future. These days, though, beyond investing in more environmentally and socially conscious financial instruments, I'm planning for my later years by expanding my view of wealth and assets. I'm prioritizing good health now, not in the future. I'm focused on building multi-generational connections in my community to support and interact with me as I age. I'm building useful skills like foraging and dumpster diving that will save and maybe even earn me money in the future. And I'm investing in regenerative assets like planting soap nut trees, from which I'll be able to make my own cleaning detergent to use, sell, gift, and barter with. I'm striving for a climate resilient retirement, not a climate destroying retirement. There are a few other elements of my growing free journey that I'd like to briefly highlight. First is my aversion to debt. Having only accrued and paid off what by today's standards were nominal amounts of student loan debt, but felt very oppressive at the time, and avoiding all other debt except my mortgage was crucial in my own journey to escape the 9-to-5. I'm not saying this to debt shame anyone. If you are carrying a lot of debt, though, you'll want to get serious and come up with a debt payoff strategy. Many people have found it helpful to use large wall trackers to stay motivated with the visual progress as they pay off their debt. And you can find other ways to gamify the debt paydown process as well. I'm also fortunate to be more inclined to frugality, minimalism, and sustainable living, which helps me keep my costs low. One of the terms I encountered early on in this journey was lifestyle creep. That's essentially when you spend more money as you earn more money instead of saving more money. While I was never a super saver, I did save more than the average American, which really helped me avoid that lifestyle creep. Now, because I dumpster dive, forage, exchange food with others, and don't go out to eat much, I spend very little money on food. These activities are also free entertainment and exercise, along with being good for the planet. If you know permaculture, you know the power of stacking functions. And the final element worth mentioning is the effort I put into befriending like-minded people. I've seen so many people on social media lamenting the fact that they don't know or can't find frugally minded people to hang out with. I haven't had that problem, but I also strategically directed my time and energy to events and organizations where I knew my frugal and eco-friendly peers were likely to congregate. That meant getting involved in our local urban agriculture and permaculture scene, joining the minimalist meetup, and finding our St. Pete time bank, where the currency is time, not money. As a result, I have a wonderful network of friends who prefer sharing potluck dinners, garden abundance, and just hanging out with spending quality time together. I was also beyond fortunate to meet my life partner through these channels, and he continues to show me how to grow free in new ways on a regular basis. And in his place is the moon landing. This is this amazing food forest where I'm filming this video. I want to quickly circle back to A Black Girl in the Woods, whose video I referenced earlier. In a recent YouTube video of hers telling her own story, she commented, "It's almost as if I had to change the way my brain works to process the possibility of it, because it flies in the face of everything we're told we should want and everything we're told we can do." She also encouraged viewers to give themselves space to imagine the possibilities. This is vital because creating a fulfilling, financially resilient and climate resilient life requires a very different way of living and thinking than what we're usually exposed to or encouraged to pursue. So I hope hearing my story plants a seed or sparks some new ideas that further your own efforts to grow free. Free from the machine, free from the matrix, and free from the rat race. And you can check out this video next if you'd like to delve deeper into how to achieve financial freedom on a climate-challenged planet. Because like I said, we need to rethink how we build wealth in an era of major political, climate, and economic uncertainties.